David Chen pulled his old baseball cap down lower as he walked through the employee entrance of his own store. Nobody recognized him, which was exactly what he wanted. For 20 years, he had built Retail Max into one of the biggest store chains in the country, but lately something was bothering him. The numbers on paper looked good, but he kept hearing whispers about problems in his stores. His assistant had begged him not to do this. "Just send someone else to check things out," she had said. But David wanted to see for himself what was really happening. So here he was, dressed in old jeans and a worn jacket, pretending to be the new night janitor at the downtown store. The store manager, a thin man named Rodriguez, barely looked at him during the quick introduction. "You'll be working alone most nights," Rodriguez said, handing him a mop and bucket. "Clean the floors, empty trash, stock shelves when the trucks come in. Nothing complicated." The man seemed tired and stressed, constantly checking his phone and muttering about sales numbers. As Rodriguez walked away, David noticed how dim the lighting was in the back areas. Several bulbs were burned out and the air felt heavy and stale. He had no idea his stores looked like this after hours. During his rare visits as CEO, everything was always perfect. Bright lights, clean floors, smiling employees. This felt like a completely different place. The night shift was an eye-opener. David watched as tired employees rushed around, trying to get everything done before their shift ended. The break room had a broken microwave and chairs that looked like they came from a garage sale. The employee bathroom had a leaky faucet that nobody seemed to care about fixing. These people worked hard, but they were working in conditions he never would have accepted for his own office. Around midnight, things got quieter. Most of the night crew had left, and David found himself alone in the store. He started mopping the main floor, paying attention to conversations he overheard from the few remaining workers. They talked about second jobs, unpaid bills, and worry about making rent. One woman mentioned she hadn't had a day off in 3 weeks. This wasn't what he had imagined when he built his company. He thought he was creating opportunities for people, giving them steady jobs and a chance to build better lives. But listening to these conversations, he wondered if he had somehow lost sight of what really mattered. By 2 a.m, David was working his way down to the basement storage area. The stairs creaked under his feet, and the air got colder with each step. This part of the store felt forgotten, like nobody had paid real attention to it in years. Boxes were stacked everywhere, some looking like they had been there for months. The concrete floor was cracked, and water stains on the walls suggested the place had flooding problems. He was moving a stack of old promotional materials when he heard something that made him freeze. It was soft, almost like a whisper, but definitely human. David set down his cleaning supplies and listened carefully. There it was again. The sound of someone breathing, maybe even talking quietly. Following the sound, he walked deeper into the storage area, past towers of boxes and old store fixtures. In the far corner, behind a wall of inventory that looked deliberately arranged, he saw something that stopped him cold. There was a small space, almost like a tiny room, created between the boxes and the wall, and in that space someone had made a bed. It wasn't really a bed, of course. It was layers of flattened cardboard boxes with a couple of thin blankets on top. But someone was sleeping there, curled up in the dim light from a small flashlight. As David got closer, he could see it was a young woman, probably in her 20s, wearing what looked like a store uniform. And next to her, sleeping peacefully, was a little girl who couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 years old. David's heart started pounding. This was his store, his company, and somehow an employee was living in the basement with her child. He didn't know what to do. Part of him wanted to wake them up and find out what was happening. Another part of him was afraid he might scare them. He stood there for several minutes trying to process what he was seeing. The woman looked exhausted even in her sleep. Her store uniform was clean but obviously worn many times. The little girl was clutching a small stuffed animal and looked peaceful, despite sleeping on a basement floor. They had a few personal items nearby. A small bag, some crackers, a water bottle, and what looked like coloring books for the child. Finally, David accidentally knocked over a small box while trying to get a better look. The noise wasn't loud, but it was enough to wake the woman. She sat up quickly, looking around with panic in her eyes. When she saw David standing there in his janitor clothes, she scrambled to her feet, positioning herself protectively in front of the sleeping child. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Please don't tell anyone we're here. I know we're not supposed to be here, but I don't have anywhere else to go." Her eyes were wide with fear, and David could see she was trying not to cry. David raised his hand slowly, trying to show he wasn't a threat. "It's okay," he said quietly. "I'm not going to hurt you or report you. I'm new here, and I was cleaning. I didn't expect to find anyone." The woman looked at him carefully, trying to decide if she could trust him. "You're the new night janitor, right? I heard Rodriguez talking about hiring someone." She relaxed slightly but kept glancing at her sleeping daughter. "I work here during the day. My name is Ashley. This is my daughter, Maya." "I'm David," he said, using his real first name without thinking. "How long have you been staying here?" Ashley looked down at the floor. "About 3 weeks. I know it's wrong, but I lost my apartment and I can't afford anywhere else yet. I just need a little more time to save up for a deposit somewhere. Maya doesn't understand why we can't go home. I tell her we're camping." David felt something break inside his chest. This woman worked for his company, and she was so desperate that she was sleeping in a basement with her child. "What about family? Friends who could help?" "There's nobody," Ashley said simply. "My mom passed away last year, and Maya's father left when she was a baby. I've been on my own since then. This job is all I have, and if I lose it—" She didn't finish the sentence, but David understood. Looking at Ashley and her sleeping daughter, David realized that everything he thought he knew about his company was wrong. These weren't just employees. They were real people with real struggles, and somehow his success had come at their expense. He had built an empire while people like Ashley suffered in the shadows. "You don't have to explain anything else tonight," David said gently, "but I want you to know that you're not in trouble with me. Get some rest and we'll figure something out tomorrow, okay?" Ashley nodded, tears finally starting to fall. "Thank you," she whispered. Most people would have called security already. As David walked back upstairs, his mind was racing. He had come here to check on his business, but instead he had discovered something that would change everything. Tomorrow he would have to decide what kind of man he really was, and what kind of company he really wanted to run. David spent the next few days watching and learning. During his night shifts, he started paying attention to things he had never noticed before. He saw how the vending machines in the break room were overpriced, making it expensive for workers to grab a quick snack. He noticed that the employee parking lot had broken lights, making it unsafe for people walking to their cars late at night. Most importantly, he listened to conversations. The employees talked about everything when they thought nobody important was listening. They discussed second jobs, borrowed money from family, and difficult choices between paying for medicine or groceries. One woman mentioned that she had to choose between fixing her car and paying her electric bill. Another worker talked about wearing the same uniform for 3 days because he couldn't afford laundry money until payday. David also started finding small ways to help Ashley without making it obvious. He began accidentally leaving sandwiches in the break room refrigerator with notes saying, "Free to whoever wants it." He made sure the basement heating system worked properly, claiming he was just doing routine maintenance. When Ashley worked late helping customers, he found ways to make sure she got overtime pay by adjusting the schedule records. But the more David learned about the store's operations, the angrier he became. Not at the employees or even the local managers, but at the corporate policies he had approved over the years. He discovered that the store had a policy of keeping most workers just under full-time hours to avoid paying benefits. He found out that the employee discount was so small it barely helped anyone. Most shocking of all, he learned that the store's profit margins were actually quite good, but almost none of that success was shared with the people doing the actual work. One night, David was restocking shelves when he overheard Rodriguez on the phone with someone from corporate headquarters. "I know the labor costs need to come down," Rodriguez was saying, "but I'm already running with the minimum crew. If I cut any more hours, we won't be able to serve customers properly." David moved closer, pretending to organize nearby products. "Look, I understand the pressure," Rodriguez continued, "but these people are working as hard as they can. Ashley, for instance, stays late almost every night to help customers, and she never complains about anything. If we cut her hours, we'll lose one of our best workers." The voice on the other end was loud enough for David to hear. "The numbers don't lie, Rodriguez. Labor costs at your store are 2% higher than the company average. Fix it, or we'll find someone who can." After the call ended, David watched Rodriguez sit at his desk with his head in his hands. The manager was caught between corporate demands and taking care of his employees. David realized that Rodriguez was probably a good man trying to do his best in a bad system. The next morning, David decided to test something. He started arriving early to observe the day shift operations. He watched Ashley work with customers and was amazed by what he saw. She didn't just help people find products. She actually cared about helping them solve their problems. He saw her spend 20 minutes with an elderly man, helping him find affordable options for home repairs. She helped a young mother figure out which baby products would give her the best value for her limited budget. Other customers specifically asked for Ashley's help because word had spread that she was knowledgeable and honest. David realized she was essentially doing the job of a sales specialist while being paid as a basic retail worker. Her natural talent for understanding what people needed and helping them find solutions was making the store more successful, but she wasn't seeing any benefit from it. During his lunch break, David called his assistant from a payphone outside the store. "I need you to pull some numbers for me," he said. "I want to know the average wages we pay compared to other retailers in this area. I also want to know what percentage of our workers qualify for government assistance programs." "Sir, why are you asking about this?" his assistant asked. "And why are you calling from a payphone?" "Just get me the information and look into what it would cost to raise wages at all our stores by different amounts. Say, $2 an hour, $3 an hour, and $5 an hour." That afternoon, his assistant called him back with numbers that made David feel sick. More than 60% of Retail Max employees qualified for food stamps or other government assistance. The company was essentially being subsidized by taxpayers because they weren't paying people enough to live. Meanwhile, competitor stores in the same area were paying 15 to 20% more for similar positions. The numbers also showed that raising wages wouldn't be as expensive as David had assumed. A $3 per hour increase would cost the company about 8% of their current profits. Still profitable, but with employees who could actually afford basic living expenses. That evening, David watched Ashley's routine with Maya. After Ashley's shift ended, she picked up Maya from daycare and they went to a small park near the store. David followed at a distance, curious about how they spent their time before returning to the basement. At the park, Maya played on the swings while Ashley sat on a bench. Watching her daughter and eating a small sandwich she had brought from home, David could see Ashley checking her phone constantly, probably looking at apartment listings and calculating costs. When Maya ran over to show her mother a flower she had picked, Ashley's whole face lit up with joy. "Mama, when we get our house, can we plant flowers like this?" Maya asked. "Of course, baby," Ashley said, hugging her daughter. "We'll plant a whole garden full of beautiful flowers." Watching this interaction, David understood something important. Ashley wasn't just struggling to survive. She was fighting to give her daughter hope and dreams for the future. Every sacrifice she made was an investment in Maya's belief that better things were possible. Later that night, after Ashley and Maya had settled into their basement sleeping area, David made a decision. He couldn't fix everything overnight, but he could start making changes. He called Rodriguez and asked to meet privately. "I've been watching the store operations," David told the manager. "I think there are some opportunities to improve things for the employees." Rodriguez looked suspicious. "You're a janitor. Why do you care about store operations?" David had prepared for this question. "I've worked retail before at smaller companies. I've seen how treating employees better actually improves business. Happy workers take better care of customers. What are you suggesting?" "Small things to start. Fix the break room microwave. Replace the burned-out bulbs. Maybe look at which employees are doing exceptional work and find ways to reward them." Rodriguez seemed interested but cautious. "The company doesn't give me much budget for employee improvements. What if I told you I might know someone who could donate money for small improvements? Someone who believes in investing in good workers?" This was David's way of testing whether he could start making changes without revealing his identity. If he could funnel some of his own money into store improvements and employee benefits, he might be able to help Ashley and others while learning more about what really needed to change. "Who would want to do that?" Rodriguez asked. "Someone who believes that taking care of employees is good business," David said. "Let me make some calls and see what's possible." Over the next week, David began his quiet campaign of improvements. A new microwave appeared in the break room. The parking lot lights got fixed. The employee bathroom got renovated. Rodriguez was amazed when David told him that His contact wanted to remain anonymous, but was willing to fund these improvements as a test of concept. David also started leaving better food in the break room, not just sandwiches, but fruit, healthy snacks, and even some treats for employees' children. He posted a sign saying the food was donated by a friend of the store who wanted to support the hardworking team. The changes were small, but David could see their impact on morale. Employees smiled more, worked more efficiently, and seemed less stressed. Ashley, in particular, seemed to have a little more energy. When she didn't have to worry about finding a working microwave or safe parking, she could focus on her job and her daughter. But David knew these small improvements weren't enough. Ashley was still sleeping in a basement, still choosing between basic necessities, still one emergency away from complete disaster. The real changes would require him to take bigger risks and make harder decisions about his company's future. Late one night, as he watched Ashley tuck Maya into their cardboard bed, David realized that everything he had built his business on was wrong. He had thought success meant maximizing profits and minimizing costs. But real success meant creating opportunities for people like Ashley to build better lives for their families. Tomorrow he would start making the changes that really mattered, even if it meant risking everything he had built. Everything changed on a Tuesday morning when David overheard a conversation that made his blood run cold. He was cleaning near the manager's office when Rodriguez received a call from corporate security. "We've been getting reports about after-hours activity at your location," the voice on the phone said. "The motion sensors are picking up movement in areas that should be empty. We're sending someone to do a surprise inspection tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. David's heart started pounding. A 5 a.m. inspection would catch Ashley and Maya before they could leave their basement hiding place. After everything Ashley had been through, she would be fired, arrested for trespassing, and possibly lose custody of Maya. Rodriguez sounded confused. "Motion sensors? I haven't noticed anything unusual. Maybe it's just the new night janitor doing his job? Possibly, but we need to check it out. Don't mention this to anyone. We want to see what's really happening when people think nobody's watching." After the call ended, David stood frozen in the hallway. He had less than 24 hours to figure out how to protect Ashley and Maya. His first instinct was to warn them, but that would only delay the problem. They needed a real solution, and fast. That evening, David waited until Ashley finished her shift and collected Maya from daycare. He found them in the park where they usually spent time before returning to the store. "Ashley, I need to talk to you about something important," David said, sitting down on the bench next to her while Maya played nearby. "You look serious," Ashley said, immediately worried. "Is everything okay? Did I do something wrong at work?" "No, you didn't do anything wrong. But there's going to be a surprise inspection tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Corporate security is coming to check out the store." Ashley's face went white. "They know? They suspect something. The motion sensors are picking up activity after hours. If they find you and Maya tomorrow morning, I'll be arrested," Ashley finished quietly, "and they'll take Maya away from me." She looked at her daughter playing on the swings, completely unaware that their world was about to collapse. "That's not going to happen," David said firmly. "I have an idea, but I need you to trust me completely." Ashley turned to look at him. "What kind of idea?" David took a deep breath. What he was about to do would change everything, but he couldn't stand by and watch this family be destroyed. "I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound impossible, but I need you to believe me. I'm not just a night janitor." "What do you mean?" "My name is David Chen. I'm the owner and CEO of Retail Max." Ashley stared at him for a long moment, then laughed nervously. "That's not funny, David. Why would you joke about something like that?" David pulled out his phone and showed her a news article about the company with his picture. Ashley's expression changed from confused, to shock to something close to panic. "You're serious," she whispered. "You're really... But why are you working as a janitor? Why didn't you tell me?" "I wanted to see what was really happening in my stores. I had no idea that people working full-time for my company were living in basements with their children. And when I found you and Maya, I couldn't just walk away." Ashley stood up quickly, backing away from him. "Oh God, I'm fired. You know everything. I've been stealing from your company, living in your building illegally." "Ashley, stop," David said, standing up but not moving closer. "You're not fired. You're not in trouble. I'm here to help you. Why would you help me? I'm nobody." I'm just some desperate single mom who was stupid enough to think she could live in a basement without getting caught. You're not nobody, David said firmly. You're one of the hardest working, most dedicated employees I've ever seen. You care about customers, you solve problems, and you've managed to take care of your daughter under impossible circumstances. You're exactly the kind of person this company should be supporting, not abandoning. Maya ran over to them, sensing the tension. Mama, why are you crying? Ashley wiped her eyes and picked up her daughter. It's okay, baby. Mama's just talking to David about grown-up things. David knelt down to Maya's eye level. Hi, Maya, your mama told me you're really good at coloring. Would you like to see something cool? He pulled out his phone and showed her a video of the company's headquarters, with its impressive lobby and indoor garden. This is where I work during the day. Do you see those flowers? They're just like the ones you picked at the park. Maya's eyes went wide. It's like a castle. Do you live there? No, but I have an idea about a place where you and your mama could live. A real place with your own bed and kitchen and everything. Ashley looked at David with a mixture of hope and fear. What are you talking about? Tonight, instead of going back to the basement, you and Maya are going to stay in a hotel. Tomorrow, while the security team is doing their inspection, you'll be safe and comfortable, and then we're going to find you a real apartment. I can't afford a hotel, Ashley said automatically. I'm paying for it. And I'm paying for the apartment deposit, first month's rent, and whatever else you need to get settled. Ashley shook her head. I can't accept that. It's too much. I haven't done anything to deserve it. Yes, you have, David said. You've shown me that my company needs to change. You've worked hard every day despite having every reason to give up. And you've taken care of Maya with grace and love under circumstances that would break most people. But why? Really, why would you do this for us? David thought about how to explain it. Because I built a company that I thought was successful, but I was measuring success all wrong. I was looking at profit margins instead of people's lives. You and Maya living in a basement while you work full-time for my company. That's not success. That's failure on my part. Maya tugged on David's sleeve. Are you going to help us get our house with the garden? Yes, David said, smiling at her. We're going to get you that house with the garden. Ashley was quiet for a long time, holding Maya and thinking. Finally, she said, If you're really who you say you are, if you really want to help us, then I have to ask you something. What? What about everyone else? The other employees who are struggling? The single dad who works 2 jobs and still can't afford his rent? The grandmother who's raising her grandson on minimum wage? Are you going to help them too? David felt a surge of respect for Ashley. Even in her moment of potential rescue, she was thinking about other people. Yes, he said. That's exactly what I'm going to do. But I need someone to help me figure out how to do it right. Someone who understands what it's really like to work for this company. What do you mean? I mean, I want to offer you a different job. Not just helping you get an apartment, but helping me change how this entire company treats its employees. You understand things about retail work that I never learned in business school. Ashley looked stunned. You want me to work with you? But I don't have any business experience. I didn't even finish college. You have something more valuable than business experience, David said. You understand what it means to struggle, to work hard for every dollar, to make impossible choices between basic necessities. You know what employees really need, not what executives think they need. That night, David checked Ashley and Maya into a nice hotel suite with 2 beds, a kitchenette, and a view of the city. Maya was thrilled with the big bathtub and the tiny bottles of shampoo. Ashley kept looking around like she couldn't believe it was real. Tomorrow morning, while the security team is searching the store, you'll be here having room service breakfast, David told them. And then we're going apartment hunting. As David prepared to leave, Ashley stopped him at the door. David, I need to know something. When you were pretending to be a janitor, when you were helping me with food and making sure the basement was warm, was any of that real? Or were you just studying me like some kind of experiment? David looked her in the eyes. Every bit of it was real. I wasn't studying you, Ashley. I was learning from you. You taught me what courage looks like, what dignity means, and what it really costs when companies put profits ahead of people. And you're really going to change things? For everyone? I'm going to try. But I can't do it alone. I need people like you to show me how. The next morning, while corporate security searched the basement and found nothing but empty boxes and old inventory, Ashley and Maya were eating pancakes and planning their new life. And David was planning how to transform his entire company. starting with the woman who had taught him that true success was measured in human dignity, not dollar signs. 6 months later, David stood in what used to be the basement storage area of the downtown Retail Max store. The space had been completely transformed into a bright, welcoming employee break room and childcare center. Where Ashley and Maya once slept on cardboard, there were now comfortable couches, a small kitchen, and a play area for employees' children. "It's hard to believe this is the same place," Ashley said, walking up beside him. She looked different now, confident, well-rested, wearing a professional outfit instead of a worn store uniform. Her new business card read, "Ashley Williams, Director of Employee Experience." "Do you ever miss being a janitor?" she asked with a smile. David laughed. "Some parts of it. I learned more about my own company in those few weeks than I had in years of board meetings and profit reports." The transformation hadn't been easy. When David first announced his plans to dramatically raise wages and improve working conditions across all Retail Max stores, his board of directors nearly fired him. Some investors threatened to pull out. Financial analysts predicted the company would fail within a year, but David had Ashley's insights to guide him, and the results spoke for themselves. Employee turnover dropped by 70%. Customer satisfaction scores reached all-time highs. Productivity increased as workers stopped worrying about basic survival and started focusing on doing their jobs well. Most surprisingly to the skeptics, company profits actually increased as happy employees provided better customer service and reduced the costs of constantly hiring and training new workers. "Tell me about the housing program," David said, gesturing toward a bulletin board covered with photos and thank you notes. Ashley's face lit up. "We've helped 43 families move into stable housing so far. The Emergency Assistance Fund has prevented 12 evictions, and the child care program is serving 68 children. But the best part is seeing people plan for the future instead of just surviving day to day." She pointed to a photo of a young man in a graduation cap. "That's Carlos. He was working 3 part-time jobs before we raised wages. Now he's taking night classes to become an electrician. And this," she showed him a picture of an older woman with a little boy, "is Mrs. Johnson. She's been able to reduce her hours to spend more time with her grandson, but she's making more money than before because of the wage increase." David picked up a crayon drawing from the bulletin board. It showed a stick figure family standing in front of a house with flowers. At the bottom it said, "Thank you for helping my mama," in a child's handwriting. "Maya drew that for you," Ashley said. "She still talks about the night you found us in the basement. She calls it the night everything changed." "How is she doing?" David asked. "See for yourself," Ashley said, pointing toward the play area. Maya, now 5 years old, was helping younger children with a puzzle. She was wearing a bright dress and had ribbons in her hair. When she saw David, she ran over to hug him. "Uncle David, look what I made in kindergarten." She showed him a book she had written and illustrated called How to Help People. Each page had a different suggestion. Give them food when they're hungry. Help them find a house. Listen when they're sad. This is beautiful. "Maya," David said, kneeling down to her level, "are you going to be a helper when you grow up?" "I'm already a helper," Maya said seriously. "Mama says helping people is the most important job anyone can do." That evening, David and Ashley walked through the store together, observing the end-of-shift routine. Employees were chatting casually as they cleaned up, making plans for the weekend, talking about their children's school activities. The atmosphere was completely different from what David had witnessed during his undercover nights. "Rodriguez has been asking about expanding the employee programs to other stores," Ashley said. "He says he's never seen morale this high. What do you think? Are you ready to help roll this out company-wide?" Ashley smiled. 3 stores in our region have already implemented the new policies, and the results are consistent. Higher wages, better working conditions, employee assistance programs, they all pay for themselves through improved performance and reduced turnover. They stopped at the customer service desk, where a young mother was asking about payment plans for a crib. The employee helping her was patient and thorough, spending 20 minutes to find a solution that worked within the customer's budget. "See that?" Ashley said. "That employee isn't worried about making her rent this month, so she can focus on really helping customers. When people feel secure, they do their best work." As they continued walking, David reflected on how much had changed. "Ashley, I have a confession to make. When I first found you in the basement, part of me wanted to help because I felt guilty, But I didn't really understand the bigger picture. What do you understand now? That treating employees well isn't charity, it's smart business. But more than that, it's about recognizing that everyone deserves dignity and opportunity. You were never a victim who needed saving. You were a talented person trapped in a broken system. Ashley nodded. That's why the programs work. They're not about giving handouts to grateful poor people. They're about removing barriers so people can succeed. They reached the front of the store, where the employee recognition wall displayed photos and stories of workers who had achieved personal goals with the company's support. One had bought his first house. Another had graduated from nursing school. A single father had been able to switch to day shifts so he could be home with his kids in the evenings. The board meeting is next week, David said. They want a full report on the financial impact of the changes. Are you nervous? Not anymore. The numbers don't lie. Revenue is up 18%. Customer complaints are down 60%. Employee productivity is at an all-time high. And we're still profitable. More profitable than before, actually. Ashley pulled out her tablet and showed him the latest data. The investors who threatened to leave? 3 of them have actually increased their stakes in the company. Turns out sustainable business practices are attractive to long-term investors. What about the other retail chains? Are they paying attention? 5 major competitors have reached out asking about our employee programs. The industry is starting to realize that the race-to-the-bottom approach isn't sustainable anymore. As they prepared to leave, David looked around the store one more time. You know what the best part is? This isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning. What do you mean? Maya's generation is going to grow up expecting better from employers. They're going to demand dignity, fair wages, and respect as basic requirements, not special benefits. We're not just changing our company. We're changing what's considered normal. Ashley locked up the store and they walked toward the parking lot, where Ashley's reliable used car was parked next to David's modest sedan. He had traded in his luxury car months ago, deciding that conspicuous wealth didn't align with his new values. One more thing, David said as they reached their cars. I've been thinking about expanding the childcare program. What if we partnered with local schools to offer after-school programs at our stores? Parents could work their shifts knowing their kids were safe, supervised, and getting help with homework. Ashley's eyes lit up. That's brilliant. It would solve childcare problems for employees and build stronger community connections. Plus, kids would grow up seeing retail work as respectable and important. As David drove home to his apartment, he had downsized from his mansion. Donating the difference to the Employee Assistance Fund, he thought about the journey that had brought him here. Finding Ashley and Maya in that basement had shattered his assumptions about success, but it had also shown him what real leadership looked like. The company was thriving. Employees were building better lives and customers were happier than ever. But most importantly, children like Maya were growing up believing that everyone deserves dignity, opportunity, and hope. The basement where a desperate mother once slept with her daughter was now a symbol of transformation, proof that when people are treated with respect and given genuine opportunities, everyone benefits. David had learned that true success wasn't measured in stock prices or profit margins, but in the number of lives improved, families stabilized, and dreams made possible. And this was just the beginning.